It goes without saying that furries can be some of, if not the most cringe people to walk the earth. Of course, not every furry, not even half, but the bad ones are really, really bad. This story is about Lorenzo, the edgy furry, but there is a twist. Lorenzo is also a flaming racist. I will say that today's video is sponsored by Moonlight Map's newest project, Atlas, but more on them at the end of the video. So sit back, relax, clutch your CritCrab plush tight, and enjoy. Roll post. Now, let me start this off saying I have nothing against furries. I kinda am one myself, but everyone knows that people like this guy exists. A friend of mine, I'll call GM for this story, was running a new homebrew campaign and she wanted me to join. The campaign is set in a post-apocalyptic future in New England near the Canadian border. The backstory goes that 200 years before the game starts, World War III broke out and ended up wiping out most of humanity, trying to use these nukes made to change human DNA sequence. Think the DNA bomb Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, but many people were able to hide away in the bunkers fit with cryo chambers. On the surface, every human not in one of these bunkers was horribly disfigured or just straight up turned into a mutant. But it had an effect on the animals, making them literally anthropomorphic characters. Think BNA level minus the shapeshifting. We worked with this group called No Straight Roads, basically the NCR minus the cringe shit like taxes. We played as a group of soldiers who got placed in a special forces squadron we ceremoniously called the Cheesers. Now, I know for those who have had bad experiences with furries and those systems, this sounds like a terrible thing. But actually, it was great. Hell, I even decided to get my girlfriend to join since she hadn't had that much experience with TTRPGs, and she's usually up for most things I'm into, so she decides to give it a try. Now, for cast, the party consisted of 7 players, including me and my girlfriend. Everyone in this, besides our main antagonist, is a great person who we still play with till this day. Most, if not all of which are furries. DM, a friend of mine from high school who's running this show. She created this world and system with a few college friends of hers. Tater, a jolly middle-aged crocodile from Florida who acted as our tank. Boomstick, a badger with a love for explosives and my character's best friend. Henzik, a socially awkward magpie with a knack for robots. Tench, the sass master of our group. She was a diamondback from Arizona with the temper to prove. She was functionally a wiper from XCOM 2. Damien Lockwood, my character, a human who woke up to this new world and learned to survive by himself using hunting knowledge from when he and his dad went hunting before the wipe, what we're calling bombs. I acted as the party scout and sniper with my girlfriend. Rose, my girlfriend's character, a dwarf rabbit who acted as our field medic, and my character's love interest. What did you expect? And last but not least, our neckbeard Lorenzo Whitefang. An uber cool wolf with a tragic past and a real bad dude. Original character, do not steal. This guy was as edgy as you could think. Ran in alone, sat brooding half the time, and worst of all, he tried making a harem of not only NPCs, but the 2 female players too. The guy was someone from somewhere. None of us really knew. All I knew was that he was a rando, while everyone else knew each other in some way, shape, or form. Now then, the story starts as our characters are sitting in a debrief room waiting for our handler to arrive. Everyone's talking, introducing themselves to each other, with Boom and Tater getting into an arm wrestling match. Everyone's laughing and joking around. Everyone except Lorenzo. He's there in the corner, brooding like the edgy fuck he is. Then the door opens and there's the new squad's handler, a red-tailed falcon named Lilith. Hello everyone, my name is Lilith, and I'll be your new handler. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Everyone's saying hello in their own little ways. Lorenzo then pipes up with a, "Well, aren't you a pretty little thing?" in the way that would make an eldritch horror uncomfortable. Now, I don't know if DM simply didn't hear him or she just ignored him because she simply moved on to the normal stuff. Skipping ahead to when he started being creepy to Trench. We're there, a few sessions in on a mission. I want to say it was stealing some black market supplies from a group of bandits. Now, as I said earlier, Trench was a diamondback rattlesnake that was functionally a viper. And if you know vipers, you know they have a tongue move that lets them pull enemies close so they can start their snake bullshittery. Trench did that too. She manages to grab a guy that tried running and squeezed him to death, ending the mission. Lorenzo, just after this, goes up to her and spits out this gem of a line. "You're pretty damn good with that tug and squeeze thing. I have something you can wrap your tongue around and squeeze." The call goes dead quiet. Trench then shoots back with, "If you mean strangling you to death, then happily. And besides, I doubt there's enough there to even do that." That gets a chuckle out of basically everyone. Well, except Lorenzo, of course. He then says he goes to loot bodies with an obviously shaky voice. Now, if this was the only time he did this to a player and he stopped, it would have been fine. But he didn't. He just changed targets. My girlfriend. Now, my girlfriend isn't what most people would call a very outgoing. She's small, quiet, and pretty socially inept, her words not mine, aka the perfect target for a neckbeard. Now, since everyone was messing around and posting pictures about themselves, we posted plenty of pictures of us. I don't know why, but this guy thought he could Mr. Steal Yo Girl through this game. The flirtatious comments weren't very common at first, but got more common as time went on. Now, my girlfriend didn't seem bothered by it, but me and the DM told him to cut it. And one day, after grabbing some lunch and heading back home, I see her sitting on the couch, obviously pissed. To confirm my suspicions, she starts ranting in Spanish, something she only does when she's really fucking heated. She shows me these DMs on Discord from the creep that say how he could treat her 10 times better than I could, and how I'm probably cheating on her. Now, this next part would be fucked up even without context, but it makes it worse with context, so here you go. We're an interracial couple. I'm African American and she's Caucasian/Latina. We've been dating since I was 14 and she was 15, and now we live together, being 21 and 22 respectively. Now, for the finally. We obviously send these screenshots to DM and she says if he does one more thing, he's out. And she tells him that. So in the game chat, we're about 2 hours in when me and her are doing some one-on-one RP that led to a fade to black. Everyone was okay with it, don't worry. When Lorenzo pipes up, "God, can you two get a damn room? No one wants to hear about your fucking rape fantasies about some fat black guy." My girlfriend goes the fuck off. She starts going on about how he's the one that's made everyone uncomfortable and how he's in no position to be saying shit. Then Lorenzo starts with, "This is why all you women are the same. You don't know when someone's the best thing for you, so you know what? I don't want your fucking N-word used whole. He's probably a fucking F-word too." Yeah, and then he gets banned. The session obviously ended right there and then. We took a few weeks break. Never heard from the guy again, luckily. After that, me and girlfriend spent some needed time R&R together. This story does have a happy end though. We're still playing in that game to this day, and me and my fiance are getting married next year on our anniversary. TLDR, creepy incel Furry goes after the won't girl and gets banned for being racist, homophobic, and an all-around jackass. End post. Finally, someone who is equally cringy and crappy. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. But we're not done yet. There is another, worse furry story, and it's coming right now. Roll post. The DM of this story is my best friend. We've been friends for nearly 10 years now. He's the guy that introduced me to Dungeons & Dragons, and he's been playing RPGs for most of his life. Mostly 40k and 3.5 edition. When we all first started to play together, we were playing 5th edition, which was a new experience to most of us, but they had all played a little bit of it before, so we kind of learned how to play together. The first game I played is a story unto itself, and I'll save that maybe for another post sometime, but the second game was Lost Mines of Phandelver. I didn't know it at the time because I was so new to D&D, but he did many things during the course of this game that I would come to learn and loathe. The main issues being that he would take such pleasure in causing punishment to our characters, whether or not they deserved it. Like, he wouldn't necessarily deal out consequences for actions, he would just punish the characters for any reason and took such delight in it, laughing and smiling and cracking jokes while he did it. He also was, and has been, very critical of another player's characters for years because he is a very good role player. But that's no excuse to be mean in real life and punish his characters in-game. At the time, I didn't realize how much power the Dungeon Master really had, so I just assumed that this was how the game was, so it didn't bother me. But one thing that I didn't like was he would bring in his characters from another game that he played before he was playing with us, and before long they were basically doing all the heavy lifting because they were several levels above the rest of us. Even new to the game, I didn't enjoy this. I had been playing for about 3 sessions before he brought in this new character, and I quickly learned to despise this character. Anytime I would have my character say something to the DM's character about not needing their help, he would simply have that character show me up somehow by usually a show of strength. It wouldn't be until several months later after the game that I would come to learn the term for this type of character. The dreaded DMPC, or Dungeon Master's Player Character. He would try to bring in these types of characters several times over the few years that we played together, and I began to quickly despise them for the exact reason that so many other players also despise them. He uses them for the exact reasons that people hate. They're rude, edgy, stronger than the rest of the group, always steal the show, and always know the right answer to every question. Basically, they would always show us up and steal the focus of the game. It didn't take long before I was talking to my friend about this and explained to him that I didn't really enjoy these types of characters because they made it feel like my character didn't matter. It's around this time that he stopped having the DM NPCs actually join our parties, but instead he would use them in more NPC-style roles. There was this one character of his that he brought over from 40k that I found especially annoying though. His name was Xander. Now, Xander was an anthropomorphic cat god from the 40k universe who had a sex dungeon filled with thousands of slaves. He also delighted in causing pain and being cruel to people. But hey, that was just his character, right? I didn't understand at the time that this was some kind of sick wish fulfillment on my friend's part, but I soon would. The first time that I got to encounter this anthropomorphic cat sex god of his was as the antagonist of a game. It actually was pretty fun. The story was that Xander plucked our group of low-level adventurers from the Forgotten Realms and dropped them into a new world under his command. We would have to scour the world and make allies, find magic items, and find a way to escape. It was pretty fun and very open-ended, and I enjoyed it. The only part that was kind of irritating was that occasionally he would have furry harem-owning DMPC show up and cause some kind of trouble. Usually he would just punish us for seemingly no reason and take one of her magic items or spawn a bunch of monsters on us. At the time it didn't really bother me though, because I thought he was just creating a villain that we were going to hate. And eventually we were going to get to fight him in a final showdown, and we would get that sweet release as we took down this powerful enemy that had tormented us for so long. But, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, did I not understand what a DMPC was all about. Basically, the only time we tried to fight him, he nearly killed us instantly with a single spell. The only way we were able to escape and finally finish that campaign was by selling one of our companions to him as a sex slave. Basically, we had to appease his powerful, oh so cool DMPC. I later expressed to him how much I really didn't care for this character, and I was really disappointed that we didn't get to have a final showdown with him. Eventually, he did stop using the DMPC because he knew that I would complain about it in a very joking but also kind of serious way. You know, passive aggressiveness. We were really good friends, so I didn't want to be harsh about it or anything like that, and I still wanted to keep playing with him, so I tried to let him know how I was feeling, but also not be a jerk, you know? This brings us to the campaign of which this post was born. So I've been running our table for about a year now, and he was really itching to run a game, so he asked me if he could. Honestly, I could kind of use a break, and it would be fun to play in a game again. Plus, he was telling me that he was creating everything from scratch, which he had never done with one of his games before, and he was explaining how he was going to take a city from the lure that was destroyed. and have a story about it being rebuilt that would also be a mystery story. So I was very excited about that because I never got to play in a mystery game. At this point, there was only 2 of us left in our group. Pretty much everyone else had left and went to playing other games. All that remained was myself and my other friend that I've known for a few years, who we will call Eric. So Eric is the one that I was telling you about earlier that's not a great role player and of whom the DM is very critical of constantly. When I asked the DM what kind of character I should make, he said to make something that would fit in with a mystery story, so I made a 50-year-old human investigator. I was very proud of him and didn't min-max at all. In fact, I asked the DM if I could have him walk with a cane, and he said that I would take a -10 movement penalty. I just shrugged and said, okay. It would be kind of cool to play an elderly man with a cane. Plus, I figured we were going to be playing a mystery, and I asked him beforehand how much was going to be in, and he told me very little. So I said okay. He was very disappointed that my friend wanted to play a monk. I said it would be fine. He would be the muscle and help me in the fights, since my character was going to be more focused on investigation skills. So we played that he was my bodyguard, but the DM never really took to Eric's character. The game was actually a lot of fun. He came up with this incredibly diverse cast of characters who were all suspects in a very interesting mystery story about strange magic potions that would give people the ability to cast magic without any training. And for some reason, no sons were being born in the city. It was some powerful being somewhere in the city who wielded some kind of powerful psychic magic. Before long, it turned out that the halfling alchemist in town who had been selling his potions was revealed to be the true villain, and had been working against us the whole time despite posing as an ally. He quickly rallied all the people who were on the potions against us, and we had to retreat to the keep. We rallied all the guards together as we were going to make one big push to bring an end to all this chaotic magic that was happening all over the city, and to bring this alchemist to justice. So, now I have to tell you a little out-of-game knowledge. Like I said, the DM is a friend of mine, and he would talk a lot about the game. He'll try to give me hints and clues, and I would tell him very respectively that I didn't really want to know anything because I would rather discover them in the game. But one thing he did tell me was, be very careful if I decided to fight his bad guy, because its bad guy was very powerful. So before we went to arrest him, I had my character, who was a Domain of Order cleric, cast the spell Commune. I burnt a 5th level spell slot just so that I could ask a couple questions to my deity that I really didn't even need to ask. I just wanted to make sure that my character had the knowledge that the out-of-game me had. I asked 3 questions. Was the alchemist still in the city? Could the alchemist be killed? And could the alchemist be defeated? The answer was yes, no, and yes. He couldn't be killed, but it could be defeated, so we quickly headed over to where he was and got into a combat with him. He revealed that he had 6 Rakshasa working for him. He had him cornered in his office, and this was it. This was the moment where we were all going to throw down and either knock him unconscious or arrest him. But before we began combat, he revealed himself not to be the kind elderly halfling alchemist, but he ripped off his skin like a suit, revealing... And I guess you guys probably already know who this is going to be, and you are right, Xander the Catman Sex God! It turns out that this entire story where we were hunting down this villain was never even about us. The twist was that we had been being played with the entire time by Xander. Now, it was at this moment that I became kind of despondent, to be honest. I kind of felt like I was adrift underwater, like reality wasn't quite steady, and in my brain I spiraled with so many thoughts. It was kind of serene in a way. I thought to myself that I would give this a chance. Maybe this was going to be a chance that we could finally defeat this guy, even though we weren't able to fight him in the other campaign because he would never let us touch a hair on the furry ass of his precious DMPC. But I was surprised. Xander left the room, and I was a little excited, to be honest. I thought, oh, so he was screwing with us this whole game. But we will still get to defeat this organization and be the heroes of the story. Maybe the story won't be about how this amazing DMPC had been screwing with us the entire game, and ultimately defeated us. Maybe this would be a game about our characters bringing justice to this town. But, oh boy, was I wrong. First of all, I started to notice that every enemy in this room was targeting only Eric's character. This upset me quite a bit because it was very obvious what was happening. We were at the end of the game and the DM, who had always hated Eric's character, decided that he wanted to kill him off, which he did. We were still triumphant, and I think that the DM honestly forgot that I had the ability to resurrect the dead, which I quickly did, bringing back my monk bodyguard and having a nice moment where he thanks me, and I told him that I couldn't do anything without him. We then hear Xander shouting from outside the building, taunting us, telling us that he's going to burn the town to the ground. So both of us rush out and tell him that he needs to stop, and asks him to leave. He refuses to leave, so our characters, both being lawful good and not wanting to see this town full of innocent people burnt to the ground, do the only thing we can do, which is fight him, and if there was any possible way, to try and stop him, even if it meant possibly laying down our lives. I had a sinking feeling in my stomach already because I've done this before. We fought this character before, and the DM just uses this character to be cruel. But I had no idea just how cruel he was about to be. As we charge, my monk friend, having a much higher dexterity, rolls to go first, and he charged at Xander, who uses a reaction before his turn to cast Plane Shift to teleport him to another dimension. And he describes, as he laughs in great detail, how his monk suffers and is in horrible pain as his molecules rip apart in this new dimension that he's in. My dear readers, I can't even begin to properly articulate the shock and outrage I felt at this moment. The fact that this friend of mine would use this game as one big setup for how awesome his character is and then mercilessly murder Eric's character. No save, it wasn't even his turn. It filled me with such disgust that my friend would be so mean in this game in the campaign that was otherwise enjoyed. I was so furious and disgusted that it was all just one big build-up to having his DMPC, who I remind you is a brothel-owning Catman god from another dimension, who had, for no reason, decided to be an alchemist in disguise? To what end? Was there even a reason? I don't know. I didn't finish the game. I had enough of the DM being cruel and using his DMPC to steal the spotlight. Everything that we had done through months of build-up, all the investigating and hard work we had done to bring this village to justice was for nothing. It was all just one big game that his DMPC was playing the entire time that was going to result in us either dying at his hands or begging for mercy. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction. I got up and without a word, I left. I later messaged them as they were wondering what I was up to, and I told them I was fine. I just needed to go blow off some steam, but that I wasn't going to be playing D&D with them anymore. To be honest, I think the game has kind of been soured for me, at least for a while. What do you guys think? Was I overreacting given the history I shared? TLDR, DM uses the game to make himself the star and torments our characters. End post. That was terrible. There is some good news though. Moonlight Map's newest project, Atlas. Are you a DM? Well, if you're anything like me, then you're sometimes a little guilty of procrastinating prep and relying instead on your wicked improv skills. While I'm sure your improv sessions are epic and perfect like mine, what if I told you you could get all the quality of prepared games while still not needing to spend time on all the prep? Too bad that could never happen. Atlas is a book of 100 plus huge maps. All of them are foldable, detachable, reversible, and dry erasable, as well as a deck of 80 plus encounter cards. All of them specifically designed with versatility in mind. They can be used in any setting, on any map, and at almost every level. So say goodbye to the rushed map sketches made on the spot, as well as rushed encounter prep. Just choose a map from the book, draw an encounter card from the deck, and boom! You're now ready to immerse yourself and your players in your world. So check it out at the link in the description. I'll see you there.